I went on a family trip to the Philippines where my family's from. I ended up renting a chair in a little street side outdoor barbershop, and I invited the homeless kids to come in for haircuts. It was from that first moment, from the first child that I cut. He was super shy, very quiet. He had no shoes on his feet, and I could hear people making fun of him on the street, like saying like, oh, look how dirty his feet are. And I really took my time on his hair. When I was done with the haircut, there was somebody out on the street that screamed out, now you look like you're from New York City. He kind of just like looked up a little bit like this. Didn't really pick up his chin. He just looked up a little bit and had the biggest smile on his face. And from that moment, I realized, I was like, wow, like the impact that I was able to make on this kid it was just like unbelievable.
Imagine having direct access to someone who's navigated life's toughest terrains and come out stronger. Someone who's been there, done that, and can guide you with empathy, experience, and honesty. This isn't just advice. It's a lifeline, a strategy session, a chance to learn from my journey so you can accelerate yours. Without the ability to be self-aware and introspective, the ability for you to get to where you want to go, nearly impossible. Hey everybody, welcome back to the David Guttman podcast. Really excited for the guest I have today for a whole myriad of reasons. Mark Bustos, am I saying that right, Bustos?
Yep.
Hairdresser turned humanitarian. So when I went back to your backstory, you started cutting hair at, I think it was 14, right? So almost 3 decades now, right? 2.5, 3 decades? Yeah. So is it the same for you now? I mean, not exactly the same, obviously, but maybe talk a little bit about your journey. I know a little bit about the story, but the audience will not know all of it about how you decided to, to sort of make that your career, not just something you did for a while, and maybe kind of how it's changed for you over the years a little bit.
Yeah. So, I started doing hair when I was 14 years old, out of my parents' garage. I had my little brother and my best friend that I would mess up every single week. That turned into a couple more friends, turned into the basketball team, and then turned into like the whole high school. And eventually that turned into like surrounding towns coming to my parents' house where I grew up out of the garage and or cutting hair out of the garage. And whether people were getting a haircut or not, you would come to the house and hang out, shoot some hoops in the driveway or just hang out, I was really bad at it. I learned through trial and error in the very beginning. And I slowly got better and better. And back then it was interesting, right? Because the people whose hair I cut, I was able to see them every single day. And I was able to see how they wore it every day, able to see how it grew out every day. And if it was a bad haircut, I had to live with it and look at it every day. So I would make I was able to make like corrections in my head as they walk by me in the classroom or the hallways. But nowadays, as a professional hairdresser, most likely we won't see our clients again until the next time they come in, right? So I had this interesting way of being able to learn how to do hair on my own. Eventually went to hair school and all that. But
so how old were you when you actually, got formal training and went to hair school? Because you also got a business degree too, I think, right?
That's right, yeah. So I graduated from high school. I went to college first. I went to a local university. I started at Seton Hall, then I went to Kean University in New Jersey, and then after I graduated from college is when I went to hair school. And a funny story about that is I was like halfway through my college years. I finished my sophomore year in college, and that was when my father was like, when are you going to go to hair school? And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm going to college to make you and mom happy, and here you are like supporting like what I wanted to do, which is awesome, right? But at that point, I couldn't quit. Like I was already halfway through, and I'm not a quitter. So I had to finish, but I finished very differently. And, I would go to class the first day of school, but throughout the school year, I would stop going to class. I would stop taking notes. I'd stop doing homework. And I stopped buying books because books were expensive back then. And I was giving haircuts in the dorm rooms in exchange for notes and homework and all that. So it was a lesson that I was able to teach myself, a lesson that not a single professor was able to teach me. And the most important lesson was a lesson on how to network and hustle and barter. And it's something I use every day today. I ended up passing, not like with straight A's, but I passed, right? It's not where I wanted to be in life anyway. And I graduated with a bachelor's in business. Nobody really actually has to have a bachelor's in business in order to open a business. But the things that I did learn through college really helped me accelerate my career as I started opening up businesses myself.
Well, I never thought about it before, but talk about a skill where they could literally drop you anywhere on the planet, pretty much, and you could start a business basically, because everyone needs a haircut everywhere in the world. Exactly. And you have a skill that basically everyone needs, and you're actually really good at it.
Yeah, and one of those, the main skill is how to do hair, right? The other very important skill is how am I going to get the client in my chair? And that's like, knowing how to talk to people and knowing how to negotiate and those kind of things,
One of the interesting things about, I had this experience myself where, I'm sure you hear this from your clients, but if someone cuts your hair and maybe, they're on a trip or you're out of town or you need a haircut for something and they're not available, you feel like you're cheating, like you're cheating on a girlfriend. Like when you get your haircut by someone who's not the regular person. I don't know what it is about that dynamic, but it does seem like it's a very intimate thing, and more so than almost any other professional relationship I can think of when I think about it.
Yeah, I mean the relationships we build with our hairdressers and barbers and stylists are really close relationships over many years. I mean, I'd have to say 90% of my clients have been seeing me for over 10 years or more.
90%? Wow. Well, when I lived in Chicago, this Polish lady cut my hair. She'd been cutting my hair, and it wasn't until we moved from Chicago to Miami that I had to find someone else to cut my hair. But she'd been cutting my hair for 19 years, and I asked her. I said, "Oh, am I your?" Because I was thinking, "Oh, for sure, I'll be her longest client." She had one other client that she'd had for like 21 years. I'm like, "Well, is he like old and close to dying? Like maybe I can catch him." And she's like, "No, he's like your age." I'm like, "Oh well." Well, so let's talk about that a little bit, because I do think it's interesting, because I do want to get into the stuff you're doing with homeless people and giving them haircuts and so forth. But before I get into that, I do think that it is unique that, because I would say that the two professions I can think of where you're gonna get a lot of insight from a lot of very successful people is being a high-end, hairdresser or a high-end golf caddy, right? Where you're basically around people that have a lot of money, are generally very successful, and the difference is you don't tell your caddy a lot. Maybe he knows about your hook and your, and so forth, but he doesn't know about all the dirty details. My experience with hairdressers is they hear everything. So do you have to I'm curious with do you ever have to sign like an NDA?
I mean, with some clients, yeah, I've signed NDAs before. And honestly, that's part of our job as a hairstylist is to be basically like a therapist,
Right.
And there's a lot of things that I know about some of my clients that their own therapists or family members don't even know. And
Right.
Your secret is safe with me.
Well, that's a big response, and I would think too that, how much of yourself do you share with your clients? Because they're clearly sharing a lot of themselves with you. Or does that really just depend on the client, probably?
It always depends on the client, but people come to me because I am who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like to share my own personal life and all that kind of stuff. So it goes both ways for sure. Yeah. And really it's about reading the room, right? So if a client's sitting in my chair and they're ready to talk, like I'm ready to engage. But if somebody sits in my chair and closes their eyes, I'm not saying a word,
Right.
Or if they're on their phone doing something important, as long as they're not like moving their head, I'm not saying a word until they put the phone down or until I see that they're not doing anything important on their phone. Then I'll engage and I'll, make conversation.
Got it. Now, do you have your own salons, or you just do it just yourself, or do you have other people that are?
Yeah, I've got my own salons. I have a salon in Summit, New Jersey that I opened up back in 2018. That's my baby. That's the one I opened up first. I had a salon in Chelsea on 17th and 10th.
Right.
Unfortunately, I had to close it down because I had it for about 3 years, but my grand opening was 2 months before the pandemic hit.
Oh,
yeah, so it was absolute terrible timing. But you learn as you go. I made the executive decision to shut it down when I needed to, so that I could move forward and do better things.
Well, so the name too, was it Silver Vine?
Silver Vine Room.
Silver Vine, yeah. I liked what you were saying. I think it was in your Simon Sinek interview where you were talking about being in second place You know, Avis, you know, what the number 2, there's like, you know, we try harder kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Has that been a philosophy that you've embraced your whole life, or is that something you came to later in life?
It's something I just learned through always moving through life, you know. The salon is called Silver Vine Room, like you said, and the reason for it is that if you look at the group text between me and my 2 business partners, we were just trying to come up with a name for this place, right? And I came up with the word silver, and one of my business partners came up with Vine. And the word silver I like is because like the Olympics, like gold, silver, and bronze. Silver means you're in second place. You know, a lot of times people are like, oh no, you got to be a winner, right? Like, well, yeah, you want to be a winner, but at the same time, like I always find it important to have to be the best at what you do, but always surround yourself with somebody, with at least one person better than you. Because then how are you going to improve yourself if you're constantly the best? You're just going to be constantly chased, and people will blow right by you if you think you're the best, right? But if you always have someone to be inspired by, and always have somebody that you're going to look up to learn from, then I think that's the absolute best place to be in if you want consistent growth.
Yeah, I think that you know, people don't spend enough, because again, it is a cliche, but like there's a reason things are cliches. You know, you're the most like the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I think that's true. And if the people you're spending time with are people that, you know, have accomplished things you haven't, it's only going to help you with your growth perspective.
Absolutely.
So, so maybe let's talk a little bit about how you got to doing your first haircut with someone who was homeless, and talk about that story, and, you know, kind of what really drove you to do it, and what drive you to continue to do it.
Yeah, I think what really led me to that first initial moment when I decided to give somebody a free haircut out on the streets in New York City was actually because you know, I grew up in Nutley, New Jersey, and I always knew I wanted to be a hairdresser. And I'm just 15 minutes away from New York City, and New York City is the mecca of all great things, right? And I always wanted to be like a badass celebrity hairdresser, right? What does that even mean? All I knew back then at a young age was that I need to hustle, I need to work, and I need to invest in continuing education. I need to do everything I have to do so that when I get to New York City and get that first job, whenever I'm able to land it, I'm ready, you know, and I earned it. And so when I did get my first job in New York City, I got there and I realized that, like, I mean, respectfully, everybody sucked around me. And like, I realized, I was like, damn, I'm actually pretty good at what I do. Like, I was so hard on myself, but being hard on myself, that's what enabled me to get to where I was at that point. And so then when I landed my first job at a little barbershop in the West Village, and I met a lot of really cool clientele there because it was walk-ins only, and like you don't know who you're going to get in chair. It was kind of like a crapshoot of who was coming in. And I was ready to leave there, and I ended up one day I printed out 5 resumes, and I put on a nice outfit, and it was a Wednesday, and I walked into my top 5 favorite salons in New York City, trying to get a job, and I asked to speak to a manager in every single one of them. I ended up landing pretty much all of them, and I was able to choose which one I liked, and I felt comfortable in the one space. It was called 3 Square Studio at the time. And it was the 3rd year they were open. I ended up working there 7 out of the 10 years. And they ended up shutting down, which, fast forward, ended up being my space. It was empty for a year and a half, and I took over the space. I gutted it out and created my own. But let's rewind a little bit. When I got to that point, when I started working at 3 Square Studio, there was some really cool people coming in there. It was like a little small boutique hair salon with a celebrity clientele. Mark Jacobs was coming in there. Arena Shake was coming in there. Like a lot of really cool people, right? And I got to that point. I'm like, wow, like I from the barbershop, I was charging $42 a haircut. That was already a big jump from coming from Jersey, right? Back in 2009 or something, whatever that was. And I landed the job at 3 Square Studio, and my prices jumped up to $150. And I was like, wow, like I made it. Like, this is awesome, right? And I earned my place there, and I was holding it down. I was giving good haircuts, and like I was able to have a high client retention rate for anybody that walked in. That's how I was able to build like a reputable list of clients in that hair salon. When I got to that point, I was like, wow, $150 a haircut. This is where I wanted to be. Like, this is what success looked like from when I was a kid. But when I got there, I realized I still didn't feel successful. Like, when am I going to find and feel that success that I thought was where I was going to be? And I was a little discouraged, but I knew I had more work to do. And, it's kind of that saying where it's like, I didn't get this far just to get this far, right? But it wasn't until I stopped looking for success is actually when I found it. And I went on a family trip to the Philippines, where my family's from, and in the Philippines, it's a developing third world country, and there's some real poverty. There's children on the streets, 3, 4, 5 years old, taking care of one another with no parents on the streets over there, living in cemeteries, living in dump sites, living in all that kind of stuff. And I think I may have been, it was in like my early to mid 20s at that point when I went over there, and I knew that I had to give back somehow. And what better way to give back than doing what you do best, right? Like, I do one thing really well, that's doing hair. So I had my scissors with me. So I ended up renting a chair in a little street side outdoor barbershop, paid out the barbers for the day because I didn't want them thinking I was stepping on their toes, just giving free haircuts to people. So I paid them all out for the day, right? So they were all happy for me to be there. And I invited the homeless kids to come in for haircuts. And it was from that first moment, from the first child that I cut, his name was actually Mark Anthony, same name as me. And he was super shy, very quiet. And there was a lot of people, even from the streets, looking down, like into the barbershop, watching him get a haircut. And he just had his head down the entire time, like, and he had no shoes on his feet, and I could hear people making fun of him on the street, like saying, like, "Oh, look how dirty his feet are," and they were like all calloused up, dirty. He didn't have shoes, and I really took my time on his hair. And when I was done with the haircut, there was somebody out on the street that screamed out, "Now you look like you're from New York City." And then, like, I see him, he kind of just like looked up a little bit like this. Didn't really pick up his chin. He just looked up a little bit and had the biggest smile on his face. Wow. And from that moment, I realized, I was like, wow, like the impact that I was able to make on this kid was just like unbelievable. And I knew that, like, I knew I was going to be able to make him feel good, but the impact that I made on him, I didn't realize the impact that it was going to make on me also. Right. So from that moment on, I realized, I was like, wow, I can do this anywhere I go. And I was already thinking in my head before I even like invited other kids to come. I was like, when I go back to New York City, I'm going to pack up my backpack and I have these cordless clippers, and like, I don't need any excuses. I don't need anything to plug in. I'm just going to pack my bag and go for a walk on the streets. Mm-hmm. And that first Sunday I came back home to New York, I went straight to the Bowery. By the Bowery Mission. There was like a lot of people living out in the streets, hanging out in the streets, all over the street over there. Way more back then, right? And I was pacing back and forth the Bowery Mission, and there was like groups of people all over the place, like group of 3, group of 7, group of 6, whatever. And one guy standing alone, probably like 5 or 6 times I paced back and forth, and these guys, everyone's looking at me like, what the hell is this guy want? And something pulled me towards the guy standing alone. And I guess it was just less intimidating, and I didn't know what I was going to say. And I just started walking towards him, and in my head, I'm like, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? I don't know. What am I doing? Because I was nervous. I've never done this before. Sure. And the first thing that just rolled off my tongue was, I want to do something nice for you today. And he was like, he picked up his head and he's like, what's up? Right. Mm-hmm. And I was like, are you hungry? Because I love food. And, I'm Filipino. We just love to feed each other. Right. And he was like, yeah, that's actually why we're all here, is because we're waiting for the food pantry to open up. I was like, well, do you like what they feed you here? And he's like, no. I was like, well, if you could have anything in the world right now, what would it be? And he thought about it for a second. He was like, fried chicken and rice. I was like, all right, cool, let's go get it. Right. And we walked over. It's like 2 blocks down. Ended up getting his food. And then as we're walking over to the restaurant, I was like, I happen to be a professional hairdresser. And when you look good, you feel good, and you look like you can use a nice cleanup today. Like, would you be down for a haircut? He goes, okay, yeah. So we went over to Christie Park, just 1 block away, went on the park bench, and I just started cutting his hair. Very polite, soft-spoken guy. He only spoke when he was spoken to. But at the end of the haircut, when I was done, I had a little hand mirror. I handed him the mirror to show him what he looked like. He looks in the mirror and he goes, do you know anyone that's hiring? I want to get a job. Wow. And I was like, I was taken aback. I was like, what did you just say? And he repeated it. Do you know anyone that's hiring? I want to get a job. And I didn't even know what to say to that. I was like, I wasn't prepared for that. But I'm sure, like, if you walk into anywhere, you'll probably be able to get something. So we parted our ways that day, and I went back the next Sunday, and everybody on those streets know each other by name. Like, they all know each other. It's a close community over there. And I had a photo of him. And I was asking anybody if they've seen Jamar Banks, and nobody knew who Jamar Banks was. And I was like, this guy, like, he was here last week. And they were like, no, I've never seen him in my life. And and like I see that as a sign that like he was like my guardian angel. Like was he actually there or what? Like because that moment was really what drove me to like man, like I'm coming back and back and back and back. And that summer, I was looking for an excuse not to make it out on a Sunday. It was my only day off from work, and I was waiting for like bad weather, waiting for rain or something. Not a single drop of rain every single Sunday during that summer, and nothing stopped me. And ever since then, I was like, wow, like, and I just kept going and going and going. And yeah, so that's the story of the short story of how it started.
Wow. I mean, it's so interesting that no one remembered him. I mean, it does seems like a movie almost, honestly. Well, so now you're, I don't know, I know you have 2 children. Are you married?
I'm not married.
I mean, but you have two kids, or you said 4 and 8?
Yep.
So now you've got, your work schedule, you got, a salon you own, you have 2 relatively young children. Do you still make time for that? And maybe how to, what lessons do you use to try to help teach your kids about some of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I have a lot of photographs from like before and after photos and stuff all around my apartment, like with like, framed and everything, beautiful shots. And yeah, like, they always ask me about the photos and I tell them what I've done. I even show them videos of or the things that I've been able to do. When my daughter's 8 now, but when she was a baby still in a carriage, I would bring her out on the streets with me. She's not going to remember it, but there's photos that'll I'm able to show her to see that she was part of it all.
Well, I remember you telling this story about when your children had their first birthday parties, that you threw a party for kids in the Philippines instead, which I thought was because you're right, no kid remembers their first birthday.
Exactly.
What a waste.
Exactly.
I mean, in America, we waste money in all kinds of crazy and creative ways, but that in particular, where did that idea come from?
When my grandmother was still alive, every year it was her birthday. She wanted to feed the kids in the Philippines in the surrounding in the neighborhood. She wanted to throw a party and spend her own money to feed all the kids in the neighborhood. So it's really from that that really, when I learned that she was doing that, it instilled that in me, where I was like, you know what, like what a waste to throw a big birthday party. They're not going to remember. This is really a party for the parents to show off a little bit or whatever it is.
Definitely more for the parents than the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be way more impactful for when my kids grow up and they can really understand what I've been able to do for them, on behalf of them.
Right.
And for all these kids to be in the Philippines in particular is where I did it, to be so grateful to celebrate my baby, you know?
Wow, that's really, really. So, what were your folks like? I mean, you mentioned your dad saying, "Well, I'm assuming you're going to go to school and learn how to cut hair." So he clearly was supportive. But like, what did your folks do professionally? And like, are they the people you got your moral compass from?
I think well, my father was a mailman. He worked at the post office. Humble job, hardworking. Walked miles and miles and miles every single day. And my mother was a nurse, and she just recently retired about 1.5 years ago or so. But the first time I ever visited the Philippines, I was 12 years old, and I think that's really where it all came from, because it was a huge culture shock to me when I went over there, because I was just like a spoiled little 12-year-old, like living in the States, right? And there were times where like I would ask my parents if I can go watch a movie on a Friday night with my friends, and they would always say no, and I'm like, oh, the worst parents ever. Like I would go in my room and cry on a Friday night when I'm a kid, and like I just never understood it. But when I went to the Philippines for the first time, when they took me there when I was 12, I was able to realize, I was like, wow, like this is crazy. Like it was such a culture shock. And I realized that kids out there don't even have that option to go to the movies. Right. These kids are living like little square boxes with like 10 people in a family, living in a 75-foot square foot box. Right. It's just unbelievable to see that. And I will never forget that from when I was 12 years old. And adjacent to my family's home is a little elementary school. And the elementary school is all the kids that were going there were the kids that were living in the cemetery right down the block, like a 3-minute walk up the street. There's a cemetery, and the tombstones are stacked on top of one another, and it's pretty eerie looking and stuff. And And they have almost like makeshift squatter homes along the cemetery, even in the cemetery and stuff like that. So those were the kids living in there were the kids coming to the school. And it was my family that I learned that was funding that school. And it didn't cost much to do it, like not much at all, like a couple $100 to put 100 kids in school to pay for their uniforms and notebooks and stuff. Wow. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, like this is what my family does. Like I didn't even know. Like they don't talk about it, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so well, your parents must be very proud of you. I can only imagine. Do you get to spend much time with them?
I see them 3 or 4 times a week.
That must be really nice.
I'm very lucky because I still live local to them. They're only about a 20-minute drive from me. They're very fortunate to have my kids are very fortunate to have their grandparents young and active, and we spend a lot of time together.
That's nice. And did you have siblings, or?
I have a younger brother and an older sister.
Okay. And are they here as well?
Yeah, we're all here.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, that's really special. Well, so as you think about, guiding because you have a son and a daughter, still very young, as you think about guiding their direction through life, how do you think about it? Is it like, you figured, hey, it's just going to play out how it plays out, or are you really, more helicopter parent, prescriptive, hey, here's how it's going to go? Like, how do you think about your own children's development and evolution?
Yeah, I mean, the way I parent is I just want my kids to be happy. I want them to grow up in a stable, happy household. I just want to make them happy, and support whatever they want to do. Obviously, and my kids happen to be amazing little angels. Like they're the sweetest little kids, and I'm so lucky and grateful to have that. A lot of it starts at home. Yeah, like I know I'm a good dad, but at the same time, like they're just great kids, and I just want to be able to support whatever they want to be able to do, as long as they're on the right track.
I think the 2 hardest things about being a good parent, at least speak from my own experience, is not making it about yourself, because there's probably not a more selfish act than being a parent. Like, it's my kid, my son, my daughter, but not making it about you, because I think to be a good parent, you got to make it about the kid, not about you. Yeah. And the second thing is, how do you decide how much suffering to allow them to experience? Because, most parents understandably don't want their kids to experience any suffering, but that's not good, because they need to, they need to learn resilience. How do you think about those things?
For sure. I don't spoil my kids. They don't just get away with anything. I mean, they behave very, very well when we're out at a restaurant or out in public. I won't allow them to act up or anything along those lines. They know how to behave, and if they don't like something, then it's tough love. It's really what it is. It's tough love, not tough luck.
Yeah. And I totally get that. It's funny. My daughter's 25, and I practically begged her not to go to college. I said, it's not about the money. I'm happy to give you the money. It's just what a waste of money these days. Like I said, if you're going to be an engineer and build bridges, you probably should go to school. But, college for oftentimes is not maybe the best use of funds. How do you think about, is it just, hey, whatever they decide they want to do professionally, whatever it might be, I'm just going to support whatever their dreams are? Or are you feel like you're guiding it at all?
I'm going to guide it in some sort of way, for me personally, I was able to experience a little bit of both, right? Going to college and not wanting to be there, but I finished it because I forced myself to. And then also on the other end, going to a technical school, right? To be able to learn a trade. And for me, since I did both, I want to be able to, for me, I'm all about learning a trade, right? I'm all about it. Learning a skill, learning a trade, I'm all about it. If either one of my kids told me they didn't want to go to college, amazing. Let's figure this out. What do you want to do? How am I going to support you to take that to the next level, But if they want to go to college, give me a good reason. Why? Why do you want to go to college? And I'll fully support it too, if they have a good reason. Maybe I'm nowhere near there yet, but I think at some point I'm going to have them make a little PowerPoint presentation for me to show me what they want to do and why,
Well, it's interesting. AI is changing everything, but maybe not your industry so much now that I think about it. It's probably one of the few industries that maybe robots will eventually cut hair, but they're probably not going to be as good at the chit chat as a good hairdresser would be.
Yeah, AI is definitely taking over every industry out there. I don't, like you said, I don't think robots are anytime soon are going to be actually doing haircuts. But at the same time, like I'm trying to think of ways how I'm going to integrate AI into my own businesses. Just like, people make a reservation at a restaurant, people still have to make a reservation or an appointment at a hair salon, right? How can I utilize AI to be able to push my business uh, to succeed efficiently and things like that, right? Like just a little bit of like diving into my world of hairstyling and booking appointments where, let's say I have 10 different hairstylists, and I know that if somebody wants to book a full highlight, and in our system it'll be for like it'll just be in there on default for like 2.5 hours. But I know Angela isn't going to take 2.5 hours. She's a little more advanced. It'll take her an hour and 45 minutes. But Sophia is going to take a little, like maybe 3 hours, right? And that's okay. But the people that I have working answering the phones need to learn and study and understand everybody's habits of work, right? Where if I just had AI and just taught AI and just like kind of input that in the system, they know right away. I don't if I lose that front desk person or the person booking, then I won't have to retrain another person. It'll just be in there already, right?
So that makes a lot of sense. Well, I feel like surprisingly, well, maybe this that business degree. Do you spend more of your time now on the business side, or how do you split your thing? Because you're also the owner, right? So, how much of your time is on business versus actually doing haircuts?
Yeah, I don't do too much on operations. I have incredible business partners, and that I couldn't do. I couldn't do it all without them. But I'm still behind the chair taking clients 4 days a week, and I'm still seeing my private clients that only want to see get their haircuts done in a private setting in the comfort of their own home or offices and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, like I'm able to really encourage a lot of my staff and stylists that work with me to and kind of lead the way and pave the road for them, to show them what's possible and how I'm able to still handle everything that I'm handling in life.
Right. What's the craziest story you can tell me without violating an NDA about like someone flew you to Dubai to cut their hair for a half hour and then flew you back, or just any like wild story like that?
Yeah, I mean, like, being put on helicopters to the Hamptons in the summertime on Blade, like flying out of Chelsea or the East on the East Side, going to the Hamptons for the day. That's like normal stuff to me nowadays.
Oh, wow.
Every so often I'll have clients fly me out to wherever I need to be. But having people that sit in my chair from all different walks of life, I hear some really amazing, cool stories.
Well, I'd love to know because you tell a story about the one gentleman who no one never to be seen again after you did his first haircut. Do you have a story about someone who maybe was homeless? You were the first step in that process of them getting their life back on track. Do you have any stories like that?
Yeah, I think the biggest impact I have on what you had just mentioned was one time I went over to Nicaragua, and I went to go teach hair at a tiny little beauty school with about, I think it was like 28 young girls that were kind of transitioning out of the sex trade.
Oh, wow.
And they were there to learn like a trade to move forward in life. And so within that organization, they also had like a foster home and foster care and all that kind of stuff. So I was able to give haircuts and stuff to all the little kids associated with the school. But yeah, that was probably one of the most memorable, impactful moments of my travels all around the world, being able to do great things with what I do. I'm just a hairdresser, right? But like, who knew I was able to make this kind of impact? And I did learn that some of those girls that were in that class were able to start their own businesses, and they were already in hair school, but for them, especially having like a celebrity hairstylist coming from New York City to learn certain things from it was a cool moment, I think, for them and for me.
Yeah, it's funny. People, I think, grossly underestimate how much, because I mentor a lot of people in business stuff professionally. No one pays me anything. I do it for free. And I swear I get more out of it than they do. Not just the gratification, of being helpful to somebody, but I actually learn by teaching. They say that those who can't do teach. while I think that is often true, also, I think that those that can do really should teach because it's needed. Like those girls in Nicaragua.
Yeah, and I've done a bunch of education myself and still continue to do education for on stage in front of thousands of hairdressers at a time and doing private classes in different hair salons all around the country. And yeah, like you said, we learn as we go as well. Like you're gonna learn. I constantly learn how not to do things.
Right.
And then I'm able to take that from what I learned from this class. I'm able to go to the next class and be like, all right, well, there was a time where I saw someone doing this. This is why we shouldn't, but this is a better way to do it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, in terms of building out your team at your salon, it sounds like you've got some good business partners. I would imagine too that the chemistry of the people that work there is super important to having because again, people want to enjoy their monthly trip to the salon, right? And so I would imagine that making sure that the chemistry of the people on your team is pretty synergistic. How do you think about that? What makes someone maybe a good team member you'd be more inclined to bring on versus, it's probably not just about ability, though ability is not meaningless. How do you think about the team you built and making sure that chemistry is right?
Yeah, I mean, chemistry is everything. I mean, there was a time where we hired somebody that was super, super busy, and would have brought a lot of money into the business. We ended up firing her the first week, and because the chemistry wasn't right from the first day, from the second day, it was just off,
Right.
We don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. We want everybody to be happy and excited to be there and not be upset and afraid even to come to work. But I think one of the most important things in hiring somebody is to ask that person that I'm hiring is how can you add value to this business? Because when they're able to do it, they're able to answer that question rather than what am I going to do for you? Because obviously, I'm going to offer them a job, but how are you going to add value to me and to this business? That humbles them a little bit, and they realize that they have work to do also, in being a really good team member.
What's the best answer you've ever gotten to that question?
I think back and I had one person say that just something as simple as just bringing really, really great energy. And, even though that they were busy, they were super busy stylists, but also bringing in great energy and being a team member and working with people and grabbing the broom if they need to grab a broom, even though they're not an assistant or anything, things like that. We want team players.
Well, I remember, honestly, this has been an insight that I've really only had. I mean, I'm 59. I'm kind of embarrassed I didn't come to this sooner. But it really has only been in the last few years that I realized how important humility is as a characteristic if you're ever going to build a team bigger than one. And the other one is, and Elon Musk talks about this too, that his single biggest mistake that he's made throughout his career, and he believes he will unfortunately continue to make occasionally, though hopefully less frequently, is hiring based on ability alone. Because, in your example too, hey, maybe this is a person who's got a great book of business and they can bring a lot of money to the business, but ultimately if it comes at, damaging the chemistry for everybody, it's not worth it.
Exactly. Yeah. And, there's a saying where I heard, and I always remembered it always stuck, is hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah, I think that's right. Well, there was a saying you actually had that I loved: expensive or free, never cheap. I love that one.
My motto in life: I'm either expensive or I'm free, but I'm never cheap. Yeah.
I love that. Where did you come up with that?
I say I'm expensive. I say that humbly, but at the same time, if you want to be successful, you got to take care of yourself first, and if you want to help other people, you got to take care of yourself first. Right. If you don't have all your stuff together, how are you going to help another person, right? When you're giving stuff away for free, it doesn't have to be for charity for somebody that can't afford you, but it could also be for many other reasons, like marketing or bartering or things along those lines. If I have this one client, he became a very, very good friend of mine, but this guy knows everybody. He's like the hair manager to the stars. He just sends all his friends into me. He's never paid for a haircut ever with me, and he can afford a haircut more than anybody can, right? But the value that he brings to me has been incredible, and we've built a really great friendship.
Yeah. People, and I don't know why this is, and it's not universally true, but it's definitely statistically true. Sometimes people that have the most financially are the cheapest with their money, with their time, with their praise, and my experience is just generosity always pays off.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, which is why, like, for me, as a hairdresser, I don't ever aim for like the A-list celebrities, Hollywood stars, or sports people, or athletes, or, people are always like, oh, what celebrities do you do? Right. I'm just like, honestly, like, the person that I want in my chair, what I'm manifesting and that I've been able to manifest and get in my chair, are the people writing their checks, because they're not in the spotlight. And they've got the money to afford my haircuts, and,
Right.
and they don't want things for free because of the the value they're going to bring on social media or whatever, because they're going to post like an Instagram post isn't paying my bills,
Right. Yeah, it is. It's unfortunate. Yeah, that people are sometimes that way. So as you think about, because you've been doing this for quite a number of years, sounds like you're very good at it. You really enjoy it. You get satisfaction, as well as decent financial results. When you think, because you're still relatively young, you think about the next 15, 25, 35 years. Well, what's next for you?
Yeah, I want to, I actually, right now, I'm in the process of writing out a script, because I have a movie coming out.
Wow.
Basically a biopic on my life. I'll have an actor playing my role and everything. And it's really going to be about a lot of what we're talking about today. Like some of the stuff that I share with you today, you'll see in the film.
Who's playing you? Anyone I know?
Yeah, so there's this guy who I respect also, right? I didn't know about him. He just like kind of slid into my DMs on Instagram, and he was a movie director. But like the headline on the Instagram message to me was a feature film of Mark Bustos, and I'm like, okay, like, open it. Like, and I get a lot of messages I don't even open because it's just I don't have time, right?
Yeah.
But I see a message like that, of course I'm going to open it. And he mentioned he's a movie director. He had a bunch of films under his belt. And I saw that we had a bunch of mutual friends. One of our mutual friends is actually a big movie director based out of Manila, who I'm friends with, and I've spoken to in the past about a film. And he happens to be an actor, but he was like, imagine you're not like an A-list blockbuster Hollywood star, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you find work as an actor? Well, he was smart enough to learn how to direct and write and produce, and he acts in the films. He does it all. He's a one-man show, and he's pulled out some really good stuff. I mean, one of the movies he came out with was on Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, the Filipino boxing legend, is he was an executive producer on the film, and he played Manny's role in the film.
Wow.
I believe it's on Amazon Prime Video now. But yeah, we'll see where this goes. I mean, it's not going to be a blockbuster hit or anything, or maybe it will be. Who knows? But I'm just happy to be part of the process. And
That's really when's it coming out?
he actually just texted me today, and he said that he's going to have the first draft of the script, because we've chatted about the script and telling him about my story and stuff. And we're gonna start filming soon, probably over the summer. But he really wanted to get it done before the end of the year. I think that's a little ambitious, but who knows? We'll see.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I bet your kids will love to see that. Go to the grand opening.
I mean, like, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Did you play sports growing up, or?
Yeah, I did. All through my life, I was very active. I played football, basketball, baseball. So like the 3 different seasons throughout a school year, pretty much all my life. Yeah.
And your kids, do they play sports too? Or?
My son, not yet, because he's about to start pre-K, so he's going to get into it. Yeah. He's very active, so let's see what he wants to get into. I'm not going to force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. My daughter she's very into dance. I just went to one of her auditions 2 days ago. She has a recital this weekend. I'm excited to
auditions already. Wow.
Yeah, for and it's funny because like this audition, like if she's able to make it to this elite dance team, they're like, oh yeah, it's going to be $500 more a month. I'm like, oh yeah, great, of course it will be.
My daughter had a thankfully brief flirtation with Irish dance, and I don't know if you know anything about Irish dance, but as you get more elevated, the dresses get more and more expensive. We're like, you get to a certain level, the used dresses are like $3,000. And I was like, and you need like 3 of them. I'm like, what? Anyway, well, so what about so do you have a formal charity, that you raise money for, related to like the things you do for homeless folks, or some of the stuff you do back in the Philippines, or is it more just kind of on the, ad hoc, on the, on the off the cuff kind of thing?
It started off as just like kind of just guerrilla style, off the cuff, and that actually turned into I was able to form a 501c3. It's been fairly inactive for years now because, over the past few years through the pandemic and having kids, and just like I haven't had as much time as I'd like to be able to like fully immerse myself into the whole philanthropy charity world. But, whenever I travel, I still make it a point to get out and do it no matter where I'm at. And it just goes to show, no matter where you are, unfortunately, there's going to be somebody that needs your help. And, for all these years I've been doing this, I'm grateful to get these kind of messages, but, people will message me like, oh, Mark, like when you're in my city, like when are you going to be here? Let me know, because I'm going to come out and I'm going to help you. And I'm like, honestly, I don't need your help. Like that person does. Go help them. If you want to help them, go help them. What do you need me for? Right. That's the whole point, is to be able to inspire other people to do, like, no matter, like, you don't have to be a hairdresser. Right. I happen to be a hairdresser. This is what I do best. What do you do, and what do you do best? And I also think it's important to note that it's very important to learn before you serve, right? Because I have people that are like, oh, I'm going to go to, you inspired me. I'm going to go to hair school. When I get my license, I'm going to go out on the street and cut hair. I'm like, no, don't do that, because like a haircut can make or break a person. Right. You get a good haircut, you're going to feel better about yourself. You get a bad haircut, you're going to feel worse about yourself. And you do not want to make someone living out on the streets feel worse about themselves. Right. They're not meant to be practiced on. They're not guinea pigs or anything. And one of the most important things I learned as I went is that the pickiest people I have sitting in my chair that I'm giving a haircut to are the ones that can't afford my haircut. Really? Always, every time.
That's so interesting.
They're very, very picky, and which is great, because like I know I can give them what they want, but at some point in their life they were able to get what they wanted, right? In terms of a haircut. They know how they want their hair. And if they have this opportunity now, like they're going to try to get it,
I guess I could see why, they don't get one every month. So they're getting one. They're going to make sure they get the best they possibly can. I guess I could see that.
Exactly. And, going back to me mentioning that, like, food is a big thing. I always ask everybody what they want to eat, right? And there's this one story that stuck out to me. I was in Herald Square by the Macy's over there, and there was a couple on the street, and I ended up cutting their hair. And after the haircut, we went into the local like bodega. There was like a big buffet kind of thing in New York, right? You can choose whatever you want. There was everything. And they went to get their food, and they brought it to the counter, to the register, and I went with them to pay for it. And they both had salads. And I was like, very interesting choice. Like, you could have chosen anything you wanted. I would have got you anything. Why did you choose salads? And he said, it's not often we have this type of opportunity, because like every day, like people are giving us half-eaten slices of pizza or a bag of chips, thinking that's what we want. But if we have an option and we have this moment to get something healthy, we're going to take this opportunity to eat something healthy right now. And I never forgot it. Yeah.
Wow. Well, so so if you had to guess the total number of haircuts you've given in your life, do you have even a ballpark guess?
I couldn't even tell you.
Tens of thousands, I would think.
Tens of thousands, yeah.
So tens of thousands, thousands of people, maybe 10,000 people. Like, what are again, because you're having all of these conversations. Sometimes there was someone you meet one time. Sometimes there was someone, like you said, I think 90% of your clients have been a client for 10 years or more. So like the journey of their life. There's got to be some, again, just to give you an idea, maybe you should write a book about all the lessons you've learned from all these, people you've interacted with for all these. But if there were like 3 or 4 pearls of wisdom that you could extract from those tens of thousands of haircuts, what would it be?
Oh, man. I mean, everybody has a story, whether it's someone with all the money in the world or somebody with a negative bank account. Everybody has a story and a journey, which makes what I do very special. No matter who it is that sits in my chair, I'm able to have like personal conversation with. My job is to make somebody feel better than they did before they sat in my chair. That's my ultimate job. Sure. I want them to get up and walk away from the chair, no matter who they are, where they come from, to feel better about themselves. and just to give them the ability to also feel comfortable and share whatever they want to share with me. But yeah, just understand and realize that everybody is human, and everybody comes from their own journey, their own path in life, and there's no right or wrong answer to that.
Is there any pattern matching? Again, I'm just thinking about the unique experience that you have of, thousands and thousands of relationships, like you said, many of which have gone over a decade. That, what are the sort of the things that are consistent in the people that themselves are happy, that have happy marriages, that have good relationships with their kids? Are there consistent qualities that, or aspects of those people that, you've been able to sort of distill out for yourself? You seem like a pretty happy guy. You seem like a pretty humble, down-to-earth guy. And I'm just curious if there are some things that maybe others might learn from, myself included.
Can you break down that?
Yeah, so I really want to understand if there are some sort of commonalities in the people that you see that themselves are, forget about financial success, because I feel like that's more of a side effect often anyway. The people that themselves are happy in their lives and happy in their relationships.
Yeah, like you said, relationships. I think the biggest overall common thread between anybody that sits in my chair is family, is the connections and family. And the relationships they have within their own lives, whether they have relationships in a huge family or they don't have any relationships at all. That always comes up, and it's important, right? Like I have a lot of people that have huge families. I have a huge family myself. I always talk about family. I love being with my family. But then there's also the person that sits down and tells me about the relationships they don't have and that they lack. I once heard that a friend of mine who was telling me that his grandfather, this was years ago, his grandfather wasn't doing well. He was in the hospital, and he sat down. He visited him he visited his grandfather at the hospital, and his grandfather told him something that I'll never forget. And he said, when you get down to the last moments in your life, and you're basically laying on your deathbed, there's only going to be a few things that matter in that moment, and that his grandfather was telling him. And what he told him is family, God, or whatever higher being that you believe in, and your health. Everything in life that you achieved or ever did in life doesn't matter, because when you're in that moment and you have minutes and just your last couple of breaths, that's all you're thinking about in that moment. I've never been in that situation, but I can imagine that's what else can you really think about?
I was misdiagnosed with terminal cancer and told I had 6 months to live when I was 24.
Wow.
So I know a little bit about what that's like, and that's exactly what you think about. And my life took a big pivot, because even though I had been successful up to that point, I realized, I was way too me focused and not enough externally focused, and in all my relationships, and definitely changed the whole trajectory of my life. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Well, so you haven't talked at all. So talk a little bit about, about your faith. Are you a religious person, or?
Yeah, I do have faith. I grew up in Nutley, New Jersey, and it's like 88% Italian, and Filipino, which is a huge Catholic community. So I grew up going to a Catholic church. Went to church every Sunday. Went to CCD and did the whole thing. And hopefully my mom's not listening, but she already knows I don't go to church as often as she'd like me to. But I still have faith, and whether you go to church or not, and as long as you're out there doing the right thing, that's all that really matters in life,
Well, you're definitely out there doing the right thing. I think it's so interesting that the approach you've taken. And Simon Sinek made this same comment, but it really struck me too, which is, it seems so simple to take the thing you're good at and share it with other people. And yet people are often, they're trying to share other things that maybe aren't the things they're really good at. And I also think they think it's just about money, and yeah, money matters too, of course, but your time matters, way more. And I would say that's never more true than it is in terms of trying to raise children. They care a lot more about your time than your money.
Yeah. That's exactly what I use. So what I still say, and I still believe in, is that, just a lot of us get so involved with so many different things and don't really pinpoint what they're really good at, and just kind of all over the place trying to find that success, right? For me, at least, and I've heard people say otherwise, but for me, I think it's important to find that one thing you do really well. Be so painstakingly good at it, and share it with as many people as you possibly can. And sometimes I hear people saying that no, like if you want to find real success, then you got to dip your hands in everywhere, and do all these different things. Yeah, that's great on a selfish level. If you want to be like a true entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. But if you want to be an overall good, like whole, well-rounded human being, I think all you need is to find one thing to do it well, to find that comfortable financial success for yourself. But when you find that one thing, you're going to be so good at it that you're going to be able to share it with as many people as you can. And you're going to share it at the highest level possible, not just giving like half-ass versions of it, right? So yeah, I still truly believe that it's find one thing well and do it as well as you can.
You know, your story about, you know, starting so young at 14, for God's sake, in your parents' garage, you know, it reminds me a lot of this story. I don't know if you know the story about the Beatles, but they apparently had some just insane amount of studio time and time where they were like performing like 6 days a week. And they did that for something like 2 or 3 years. So they just had way more time, just more reps, right? And I think people grossly underestimate, because people are like, oh, I'm sure like if someone went and saw you cut hair now, they'd be like, oh, I could never do that. He was just born naturally gifted. No, you spent decades, refining your skill and investing your time and energy. And the reality is most people can get really freaking good at something they spend a lot of time doing. Yeah. And people just give up, too soon. It's the 80-20 rule in reverse, which is, most people are going to give up before they become competent.
Yeah, exactly. And, like you said, I've been doing hair for a long time. And when the media really picked up on my story and things blew up for me and people then heard about me, like, oh my God, yeah, Mark, he's an overnight success.
Since you're 14,
16 years in the making at the time when everything blew up for me. Like it took me how many years to get to this point, right?
Right.
But yeah, it didn't happen overnight. Like I was doing it maybe quietly to everybody that didn't see me doing it. Right. But yeah, you got to put a lot of time and effort and put in the hours.
Well, how do you stay? It would be easy, and I definitely have met people like this. That, once they make it, and especially when they're hobnobbing with celebrities and stuff like that, all of a sudden humility is completely out the window. I don't sense that from you at all. How do you sort of keep yourself humble and grounded?
I don't even know how to explain that.
Just, your parents were like, hey, don't get too big for your bread. Like, do you have, close friends that are sort of, keep you grounded, or is it that's just how you're wired?
Yeah. I mean, like growing up, I didn't have anybody in my life that I was surrounded by that had access to an elite world, if I should say, right? And when I got there, I took a crash course on it all, and it all happened real fast. And I think I was just worried about myself and my own mental health at the time. Cause I was probably one of the, when things going viral was at the beginning of things going viral. That was me. It was like in the early stage of going viral is when I went viral, and I was like, I don't know. I don't have anyone to talk to. And I was just freaking out. And I had thousands of emails from basically every major publication from around the world emailing me, reaching out to me, reaching out to my mom at work, like Entertainment Weekly or whatever, those shows, I don't even know all these things just all hit me at once, and I didn't know how to handle it. And no matter who reached out to me, it didn't matter, because I was just everybody just calm down right. In that moment. But over the years, just being surrounded by and just having people sitting in my chair and being surrounded by really cool people, I just never, for me, I just never got starstruck to begin with anybody. So it's just, and we're all human, Yeah.
Well, I guess now I think about it, maybe having that day-to-day experience, because it's sort of it's how I would imagine it would be for a doctor. It's like when you're on the operating table, it doesn't matter whether you're homeless or a billionaire. And I would imagine when you're sitting in the chair getting your hair cut, everyone wants a haircut, whether you're a billionaire or a homeless person. Like you said, maybe the homeless person's even more, persnickety about their haircut than the billionaire.
I had, going back to what we were just talking about, I have this one really, really good friend of mine. I've been cutting his hair every single week for the past maybe 14 years now. He was just in today for a haircut actually, and over the years he's become my unofficial mentor in life, especially in the early stages of my life before, like when I started working at a high-end hair salon, before I started giving haircuts to the homeless and all that kind of stuff. And I used to get super excited about like, oh, like I wish I had that person in my chair, and we get excited about things, and he would always just like very simply. Bring me back down to humble myself. And for example, if I'm like, oh, I'm just going to make this up. Like I want to cut I really want the editor in chief of GQ magazine in my chair. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm just making this up, by the way. And he's like, he would just simply be like, why?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. And like, just like things like that, right? Where I just realized, because he was already up there, like doing his thing and like has experienced that world and that life. And just I guess having people like him in my life, Philip Lim is his name. He's a super ultra famous fashion designer.
Okay.
And yeah, like having people like that in my life to kind of guide me through, to help me like humble myself and realize what's important and what's not important, what to be excited about and what not to be excited about. He would just bring me right back down to earth when I got excited over something I probably shouldn't have gotten excited about in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. And are there people that you mentor, actively?
I not anyone like right under my wing at the moment, but I have a staff of many hairdressers and assistants and stuff that everybody's always watching. So
Right.
Whether you like it or not, and whether you know it or not.
Well, so so as we look to wrap up here, you think forward 25, 30 years, you're still around, your kids are a bit older. What do you want your legacy to be if you think about it that way? What would you want them to say about you? What would you want your parents to say about you?
Forget all the things that like all the accolades that I had, and like I've won all different awards and this and that, and to me I'm just like, somebody made this award up. Somebody made it up. Like, is this
Right.
really who made this up? Like even
Right.
the Oscars is like the cream of the crop, but like
Right.
if it's not the Oscars, then like somebody just made this up. And it's like it's great to have that recognition, but at the end of the day, it's like you don't do things in life so that you can be recognized and to win an award. You do things because you want to do it, right? Like you're not going to hold the door open for someone, and if they don't say thank you, you're going to get mad at. You don't get mad at them. You held it open because you wanted to hold it open for them, not because you wanted recognition for it,
Yeah.
right? So at the end of the day, like my legacy, what I want my legacy to be is just have my kids and everybody know that I was just a good human being, and that's it. I don't care about anything else.
Well, I think that's a great way to travel through life. Mark, where can people find you and, maybe contribute to what you're doing in some small way or big way or what have you? Where can they find you?
You can find me on my Instagram account at Mark Bustos, MarkBustos. And honestly, like if you want to be able to help out, just go help somebody that needs it.
Pay it forward.
Pay it forward. That's it.
Yeah. It's funny. I just I had some guys the other day, young kids, 18, 19, I think the oldest was 25. And they're like, whenever I did something small, nice for them, and they were just like, what can we do? How do we like, just pay it forward to somebody else? It's definitely the way to go.
Yeah, for sure.
Mark, I really appreciate you making the time today. I really enjoyed the conversation.
You as well. Appreciate you.